This forum and completely indebted to the ABVP for the little fame that I've received. I'm also an MPhil scholar at the Department of English, University of Delhi. And unlike what Nandini was saying right now, that people don't turn up for classes, actually we have a rule in our department that if you miss more than 2 seminars as part of one course, you're thrown out of the entire MPhil. So my problem with the university there is that people only attend classes, especially my classmates, and don't come out of their classes to engage in some things that happen outside of the classroom. I'll actually just explain. Apurva is my colleague, she works with NewsClick. I was actually filming Prashant getting beaten up, and I suddenly realized that the fight broke up right next to me. Before I could realize, I was thrown on the ground and subsequently beaten up there as well. So I was not a part of the protest. I was not there as a student. I was there as someone who was filming the protest. And anyone who has any sense of who's done any kind of camera work will know that you can only do one thing, you can't do both. What I'm trying to say here is that it's not just the fact that they beat up students, professors, which is obviously must be condemned, but they were absolutely emboldened by the fact, they were happy about the fact that they beat up journalists. And they beat up, I think, a journalist from Quint, someone from Hindustan Times did a Facebook live, and you can clearly see that they say that you cannot enter our part of the protest. Now if you're a journalist, you should actually be on both the vantage points to get visuals, appropriate visuals, which can help you make sense of what exactly is the situation on the ground. But they were clearly saying that no, you can't come on our side. And after everything that happens, for me to see later in the day that media channels reporting that this is a clash is not objective journalism. When we put out as part of the Indian Writers Forum, when we said that this is the ABVP beating up students, we were the ones who were being objective. We were the ones who said what had happened. And I have to take liability of the fact that when I am with a group of protesters and I feel absolutely safe in their presence, I have to make sure that I tell the world that okay, these guys were the ones who were peaceful, who were peacefully demonstrating, and who were not being violent. We are the ones who are doing objective journalism. Now, where is the problem? I have a hunch like there were extremely brave reporters there who were also filming and who were also beaten up. And I have a hunch that when this goes to the editorial board, the headlines get written there. Now, the editors will not come to the ground to see what the situation is, and then you get to make the headlines. There's something wrong with that. It is your reporters who are on the ground who must tell you what had happened and what the situation is. And what had happened was that it was not a clash. What had happened was that the ABVP beat up a certain group of protesters who also did not come from any particular political party. I spoke to some of them. A lot of them, for many of them, this was the first time some of them had engaged in a march because they felt that any kind of seminar must be allowed to be held. The second thing is that it is the ABVP who really saw the event as being thought of as one person who comes to a seminar. The seminar was called Cultures of Dissent. There were several people from several backgrounds who were coming. I think the media also has to stop reporting events in a way that takes the language, that partakes of the language of a particular party. Again, if you say this is a so-and-so event and name one person, what you forget is that the issue here is that of whether or not you can have a protest, whether or not you can have a protest or even a seminar. The issue is, can we discuss these aspects? And not all the speakers there agree with each other on what they're discussing. They will all probably disagree. But the issue here is that when stones are being thrown, why is that the Delhi police will remain so mum? They just, I mean, for them, Apurva and I did meet I think it was Vijender Singh, right? So the Joint Commissioner, and he said that, listen, these are constables, they're hardly educated, you cannot blame them. And but the point was that you have to make sure who is the one who's writing here. If there's a case of writing, why can't the police go ahead and register a case of writing? there was shutters which was, I mean, these are people, I have seen them for my 4 years in the university life. There are small shops, they sell, they sell a chola kulcha, and it's their livelihood. Everything depends on that one little shop that they have built. And when you throw stones on this side, and these people were absolutely terrified, not knowing what to do and where to go, and who will listen to them? Having said these two particular things, I'll just finally, since Nandini did mention a few things about nationalism and the ways of reading or thinking about it. I work on Indian English poetry, and I'll just give you one reference and end. And I think this will have some resonance with JNU as well, because so in the 1990s, there were several Indian English poetry anthologies which came out. And in the 1990s, one of them was actually edited by Makarand Paranjape, which was brought out by Rupa Publications. And he claimed that there is a continuity in terms of our thinking of the nation. That if you look at the post pre-1947 poets who wrote in English to the ones who wrote in after 1947, they had a clear, you can trace a clear idea of nationalism right from the time Sarojini Naidu was writing to, say, someone very different like Arvind Krishna Mehrotra. Obviously, he's not read some of his primary texts, or he refuses to engage with them. There's a poem written, Bharat Mata. It came out in the 1960s by a very well-known poet called Arvind Krishna Mehrotra. It's there on Google Books, you should read it. And that poem was actually inspired by Allen Ginsberg's poem America, America, and he said that the most liberating moment for me in the 60s, and you remember how the 60s was, shortly after you will have the Naxalite movement resulting in Naxalite literature. At the same time, the Dalit Panther movement had started in Maharashtra. So there was a complete reevaluation of what people thought poetry can and should do. And at that point of time, he said that the most liberating line for an Indian poet was, America, go fuck yourself. He said that because when Ginsberg wrote that, and these people, I think we still study Skylark and, I don't know, some romantic poets and daffodils. And he said that for the first time, someone wrote in poetic language and brought to poetry something that was true of our times. And Bharat Mata, by the way, is dedicated, it was also written, it was a response to the emergency movement. So later when it would be published, he will actually dedicate that to Indira Gandhi. So you see that, so when Paranjap is writing in the 90s, he obviously either overlooks or refuses to see that this is a part of Indian English. And this is what we have to do in the academia. I have to read his work, and then I have to critique it, and then we can sit on the table and critique these things, and we can come up with different conclusions. But if you throw stones at me, how do you expect me to engage with you in any whatsoever way? The funny part is, in the 2000s, there's another poet whom he included in his own anthology, Makarand, and that poet's name is Ranjit Hoskote, who's also a very well-known poet. He's also done translations of the Kashmiri poet Lalde. And he brought out another anthology in the mid-2000s called Reasons for Belonging. And for the first time in Indian English anthologies, we don't have the term, the nation is not present. It's not an Indian English anthology. And his argument was that to belong to a nation or to belong to any kind of space, you need your reasons to belong. And if I have my reasons to belong to this nation, it'll probably because of people like Nandini Sundar, of people who are, of brave cameramen who stand in front in situations and shoot and do their job. This is the reason why we feel like belonging to our nation. And what we feel and what our reasons are and our reasons for belonging rest with us. Nobody, neither the ABVP or anyone else or your supervisor or anyone else under the world can tell us why do we feel that we have, why we should belong to the nation. We all have our separate reasons for belonging, and let us remember that.